Hey there, hope all is well. Back at you today with some more RTD News updates. And as you can tell from today's title, BRICS for Gold, a dollar-smashing monetary revolution, with a little bit of Maduro news on the side. I'm going to share with you two articles I came across over the weekend that I think is quite telling of the state of the Federal Reserve note and how it's being viewed globally, especially with the formulation of the BRICS organization, as well as the recent events happening down in Venezuela with Maduro, and how he just basically said that he's done with the dollar for the most part and going to continue to do things with the yuan. So before we dive into those articles, as always, if you're new to RTD, I want to encourage you to click the subscribe button as well as the notification tab to be informed of the next news updates as well as RTD interviews. And as well, if you're new to the Rethinking the Dollar concept, I want to invite you to visit the RTD University page, where I cover all my prior interviews, giving a little bit of an inside look at what it means to rethink the dollar, which is basically what I'm going to be talking about today, with all these nations and governments deciding to rethink the dollar or reposition their financial dealings from a global standpoint away from the Federal Reserve note. So let's dive into today's news. All right, so as I mentioned, I have two articles, one from the Asian Times and the other one from Reuters, and both of them deal with the idea of that the dollar is going to be under a lot of pressure, and it has been for quite a while. But what's going on out east with the whole BRICS nation and the development of the BRICS, and what I really want to hit on, and what really stood out to me, was how if you're familiar with the idea that I think it was about a year ago, the sign behind Maduro here to my left. It was a billboard posted in China that said "New Reserve Currency," and it had a hand holding a golden, looked like a golden coin at the time. But yeah, it really got me to thinking about what exactly is that coin. And so, based upon this article from Asian Times, the author of it kind of hints at the fact that China has or already had a cryptocurrency backed by gold type of thing in mind. And so I kind of understand now a little bit more how this whole gold-backed yuan / cryptocurrency that's hinted at in this article is something that is probably in the works, if not already finished and ready to be rolled out officially. And also that we have the whole futures contracts in oil that's actually backed by gold. So just going to be more things that you will hear about through alternative media, of course, but not through mainstream. And why is that? It's because it will basically make the Federal Reserve note pointless and useless for nations to hold, as well as treasuries and their reserves, if they no longer need those things to purchase oil. And then you factor in, you have Venezuela, which is the most oil-enriched nation probably that's still up and running. And how their president, I'm going to cover in a minute, talks about how they don't really need the dollar. They can just use other currencies. And if they use the yuan backed by gold, it's basically saying they're preferring to use something a little bit more stable, such as the yuan, which will be backed by gold, as their primary means of exchange amongst other nations. So once again, it's just not good news for the Federal Reserve note, but yet, nations are rethinking the dollar. So let's dive into those articles briefly. I actually highlighted a few things to kind of make it a little shorter for you. But just to give you an idea of what's going on here, here's the article here from the Asia Times. And it says, BRICS for Gold, a dollar-smashing monetary revolution. And so if you're familiar with the idea of the BRICS summit, they just finished last week. And so amongst all the mainstream news we're having with our weather here in the United States, it didn't really get much coverage at all. But yet some of the things this author here highlighted was just some of the introductory things, talking about how China and India aren't really seeing eye to eye, and how Modi and President Xi were, kind of at odds over labeling certain groups in Pakistan as terrorist groups. So that's kind of been an issue between them. But he goes on to say, no matter what, it was nothing that really can hinder their relationship overall, because of some of the more important issues, which is the monetary system. So just to hint a couple things here, they really highlight President Trump's dealing recently on isolating North Korea and dealing with trade things with countries that do business with North Korea. And so he lists a couple here, and how he's pointing at the fact that it's not going to be a real smart move on his part, being that most of the nations aren't really in need of the dollar anyway. So if they try to isolate those countries, they can just go around and use such things as this gold-backed yuan. But I want to highlight a couple things here. And as always, if you're interested, you can find out more below. But just to highlight what it talks about here, it says a brick worth its weight in gold. So he said days before the official beginning of the summit, China announced that it has launched a crude oil futures contract that will be priced in gold-backed yuan that can be easily converted to gold at the exchanges in Shanghai and Hong Kong. It says the Cold War for oil is officially on, and seemingly unsaleable Brent crude futures are now in for sure serious competition. It says in 2008, Iraq exporting oil in euros, while Libya was aiming to create a pan-American African gold bank. We all know what happened in Libya. Then it goes down to give a little more. It says, with China developing its own proverbial black gold program, things will not be so easy in terms of disruption, but the panic is already palatable. It says, with the BRICS bloc's new development bank, the ability to buy and sell energy in a gold-backed Asian currency, and now the possibility of a BRICS-wide cryptocurrency, the eastward expansion of the US dollar looks to be in serious jeopardy. So when I was reading through this article and I saw the idea that the BRICS-wide cryptocurrency, then the idea of this billboard over behind Maduro really, the light bulb went off, and realizing that the whole idea of a cryptocurrency to go along with that gold backing is something that will make the dealing in gold a lot easier, because of the cumbersome of having to tug gold back and forth to nations would be kind of pointless. So why not back it by a cryptocurrency as well, which is a lot easier. So that really got me to think about how important cryptocurrency will be amongst governments. And so just give you a little bit more of what's going on here. It talks about the special drawing rights and how now that China is included in it, they don't really necessarily need to do much with it, because through the BRIC formation, they themselves can come up with a basket of currency based upon the BRICS. And then it says here, it says, with further cooperation among BRICS countries in the realm of trading in local currencies, creating a unique cryptocurrency, and with China offering gold-backed oil futures contracts, the next logical step might very well be a kind of formal BRICS means of exchange modeled on the SDR. So basically coming up with their own form of SDR backed by the stability of gold. So once again, gold and looks like cryptocurrency might be in play for China to add along with that the foundation of a yuan-backed gold note or currency. And then also, at least a question I'm going to pose to you at the end as well. It says, with Donald Trump's threat to isolate his country from a global trade, this time North Korea as a excuse for the weak, the fact is that U.S. markets are only as isolated as the U.S. purchasing power. This is broadly an internal U.S. issue, but the power of the dollar and the importance of its holdings to America's economic might and geopolitical prestige has the potential to unleash a more powerful earthquake than the one that has just rocked the soil beneath the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. So basically, when I read that, it really hinted at the idea that, by Donald Trump's, out here speaking tough and trying to really isolate North Korea by cutting off trade with partners, the people they do business with, can only come back to really hurt us and bite us in the butt, because when it comes to the dollar or the Federal Reserve note, he talks about U.S. purchasing power. So if people don't really use a dollar and all the dollars come back here to roast or come back home to where they were originally created, that's going to cause inflation, and major inflation, to the point where it's going to be a problem for us here that the rest of the world may not really have to deal with, just because they're getting away from the Federal Reserve note. So that's just more to think about, how all this unraveling of the Federal Reserve note in circulation amongst nations for oil will really come back to harm citizens here in the United States. Then it concludes this article here. It says, far from being disunified in the areas that matter, the BRICS are quietly building a monetary edifice that, along with the physical infrastructure of one belt, one road, will expose the cracks and insufficiencies of the dollar economy and all it has come to stand for and fall for. So basically here, just really highlighting some key issues surrounding this whole yuan-backed oil futures contract, as well as how the Federal Reserve note and the dollar, aka the dollar, will be under pressure. So if you're interested, you can read more of that one. Then the very last article here, I want to be short with this one, is Venezuela. Maduro says will shun U.S. dollar in favor of yuan, and quote other. So has Maduro as of last week, because of this executive order that President Trump signed a week, or actually early in late August, in regards to businesses doing things with Venezuela, debt market wise. He basically, is painting a picture as to why he don't really need the Federal Reserve note anymore. So just to give you a quote here, it says, Venezuela is going to implement a new system of international payments and will create a basket of currencies to free us from the dollar. So here we have a basket of currencies. So the prior article dealing with the BRICS was the idea of a basket of currencies dealing with the BRICS nations. So here Maduro talks about a basket of currencies. It says, Maduro said in an hours-long address to a new legislative super body without providing details of the new mechanism. It says, if they pursue us with the dollar, we'll use the Russian ruble, the yuan, the yen, the Indian rupee, and the euro. So he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 currencies as well that he will use. And then it goes on to give more information about how the monthly inflation quickened to 34%. And on Thursday night, he increased the country's minimum wage by 40%, taking it just to $7 per month at the black market exchange rate, and so on and so on. So this is kind of what's happening in the mainstream news, of which you're not hearing much about. Why is that? Because it all has to do with the current reserve currency of the world, which is the Federal Reserve note, and how nations have already began moving away from it, and how it will inevitably come back to hurt us here in the United States because it's our primary currency. It's our national currency. And so one of the things that came to mind the other day is how I actually was answering some questions from prior videos, but I was basically hinting on the fact that the Federal Reserve note, aka our national currency here in the United States, will turn out to be our biggest financial liability down the line as more nations basically remove it from their circulating currency, whether it's pegged to the dollar or whether they use it as a store of value. And when all those Federal Reserve notes come back to the United States, it's going to create an environment like we've never seen before, because it's going to be all those notes and digits rushing to a finite amount of goods, as my friend Gregory Mannarino tends to hint at. But yet, that's going to be the economy we're living in, where inflation will pick up, and the Federal Reserve system, or the Federal Reserve Bank, who's crying about not having hit their target, they're going to hit their target plus some, and it's not going to be pretty for you and I. So I want to leave you just two thoughts here. One being with the whole cryptocurrency, as you see that sign behind Maduro, they're holding up the dollar, and how they have in mind of implementing a cryptocurrency if it's not even something that they already have in testing right now. But do you think that China is actually cracking down on ICOs and possibly exchanges because the PBOC, the Public Bank of China, has in mind of rolling out their own cryptocurrency backed by gold? And so they want to basically remove any type of competition towards their own issuing of a cryptocurrency is one question. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that at the bottom. And then the second one here has to do with Venezuela. And based upon prior history, whenever a nation came out speaking against the dollar or thinking about forming their own type of union or gold-backed currency, such as in Libya or in Iraq or anything like that. So basically, Maduro is basically saying if he's choosing a yuan over the dollar, and we just heard that the yuan is going to be backed by gold, so basically he said he's going to choose a gold-backed currency. So the next question is, do you think that because of this announcement that we will have more of an incentive to want to say that Venezuela needs to, Maduro needs to leave office even more now, to where we really look to invade Venezuela down the line in the idea of helping out and helping free the Venezuelan people? So just two questions I would love to hear your thoughts on. Other than that, I just want to share a couple of thoughts. I would love to hear your take on all this. Leave me a message below, as well as if you're new to RTD, click the subscribe button. We'd love to bring you more news and updates. Other than that, enjoy your day.